Hello, and welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. It's Monday, September 16th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m., and I invite everybody to join Council in O Canada. Thank you, everybody. Please be seated. In 1820, Indigenous people here began welcoming settlers from all across the empire. Soon, they were helping slaves escaping from the U.S. to settle here, too. Today, our Indigenous founding partners are still here enjoying the land with us. They fish and camp under their treaty rights. Indigenous people in their thousands also live with us as neighbors and friends. Our Indigenous white and black settlers created a community with an attractive degree of harmony and prosperity. In 1857, the province of Ontario recognized Oakville as a town. At Town Hall, all of these years later, we fly the flag of the Mississaugas of the Credit beside the flags of Oakville, Ontario, and Canada. We fly these flags together to acknowledge where we came from. People from all over the world are attracted to the livability we are creating here, and we offer newcomers a warm welcome. We offer everyone our founding story so everyone knows what we're part of. We feel sorrow and distress for acts of racism and intolerance suffered across Canada and here at home. We want our future to be equitable and inclusive for all. The path of truth and reconciliation can unite us. Please keep well, stay safe, and let us on Council know of any chance to be helpful to you and yours. Please let us know anytime you can help increase Oakville's harmony, prosperity, and livability. Madam Clerk, I understand we have regrets.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have regrets from Councillor Longo.
Thank you. Council, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Madam Clerk, I see no declarations. I'm now looking for a mover and seconder or for corrections to the minutes that you've been provided with, items 4.1 to 4.5. Councillor Shi and Councillor Adams, thank you. Any objection? Madam Clerk, there being no objection, the minutes are adopted as presented. Council, we now need a mover and seconder to adopt or correct the minutes of the Committee of the Whole workshop. Councillor Lischina, thank you. And one more hand, please. Councillor Nanda, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that report is also adopted as presented. Now, if we could have two of us move in second, resolving into Committee of the Whole, we can move to the regular business. Councillor Haslett-Deal and Councillor Grant, thank you. There being no objection, that's carried, and we are resolved into the Committee of the Whole. The first, we have 4 consent items. The first one is the Integrity Commissioner's Code of Conduct Formal Complaint Dismissal Report. And the motion is that the Integrity Commissioner's Code of Conduct Formal Complaint Dismissal Report be received. In the absence of a motion to do that, if there's going to be discussion, I'm going to pass the chair to the acting mayor. Councillor Adams?
I'll give you a motion to receive the report.
Thank you. Is discussion? Councillor O'Meara.
Yeah, I would like to discuss the item if that's okay.
It's perfectly okay. Councillor Hazlitt-Thiel is acting mayor. I pass the gavel.
What about approving the rest of consent items?
Councillor O'Meara, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My comments on this agenda item will be brief, and we asked the staff to report back on the actions and the comments the Integrity Commissioner brought forward in the report to update our code of conduct and reflect the best practices in the municipality of Ontario that we see in municipalities in Ontario. Openness and transparency should be at the core of everything we do, and that there was confusion or misdirection between senior leadership at the town of Oakville regarding what councillors could or could not be told is the fundamental issue concerned here. When asked about going to closed session to get a better understanding about what the town had legally signed, I was told that it would make no difference, as I was not entitled to know in confidence due to an NDA. And at no time did staff stand up and clarify that this was not a correct statement. The difference here stems between what the public knows and what council is allowed to know. And that council was about to become the first municipality to renege on a signed agreement was important to me. And that we had already received money from the federal government was important for me to know. And that questions about liability and penalties would have been important for me to know. Answers to these were negated from me as a councillor under the pretext that there was no difference between an agreed upon half application and one that was fully executed prior to the decision by council on the two major sticking points yet to be determined on May 6th. Decisions being made by our senior leadership and a lack of openness to councillors is becoming a troubling pattern. It opens up opportunities for misunderstanding and misleading as we went through during the half process. It's my hope that while we put this issue behind us, we do so with a renewed commitment from staff and the mayor that this council is the board of the corporation of the town of Oakville, and it should be privy to all information as a whole to the maximum extent possible so that we can make the best decisions using all of the information before council at all times. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Chair. Just a question to the Integrity Commissioner, if she is online with us, and it's regarding our code of conduct. And as I read through, I realized we were, the Integrity Commissioner saying we were weak in certain areas, and I can appreciate that. But just has the Integrity Commissioner ever mentioned this to members of any members of council or to any senior staff at all?
Through the chair to Councillor Elgar. Sir, I'm newly appointed to your jurisdiction, and one of the tasks that I have as your Integrity Commissioner prior to receiving this complaint was to take a look at your code of conduct and the complaint procedure and compare that and look at best practices at the municipal level across Ontario and come back with recommendations to you, to your council, on how we can change and strengthen the provisions of your code. So in answer to your question, I haven't had the opportunity to bring forward my recommendations to you.
But had you talked to staff and advised them or any member of council that in fact there are areas where we were weak at Oakville? Because I must say, I don't think a lot of us on council have read in detail the code of conduct, but it's just how you should operate yourself as a person. But were staff aware that we were weak in that area at all, or were we blindsided from a staff point of view?
So I would have to ask your staff to answer that. I just know that my appointment is not even a year that I've been with you. And the first guideline that I was given and the first task was, as Integrity Commissioner, obviously to receive complaints, obviously to investigate complaints, but your staff has asked me to review your code of conduct. So certainly I would assume that that means that they knew there was a need. And certainly I have recommendations that I will be bringing forward shortly.
Okay, so you're assuming they knew there was a weakness? Because I was not aware, I was not aware there was a weakness of it, and you're assuming that staff thought there might be, or was it just a matter of reviewing? I'm just trying to understand
Through the chair,
your answer.
Through the chair to you, sir. I can't speak to what your staff knows. I just know that upon my appointment, which is still drying ink, that I was asked to look at your code of conduct, and that is what I am doing in concert with your staff, and I look forward to bringing those recommendations to you.
Okay, no, I appreciate that because I don't think we were aware that we were weak. I really don't think we were aware we were weak of what you pointed out in the report. So thank you very much, and I look forward to what changes can be made to make things more definitive for everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Elgar. Councillor Dudek.
Thank you. Through your acting mayor. Madam Integrity Commissioner, I'm somewhat puzzled on page 43 of our report at the very bottom where you reference the respondent's supplementary reply that you'd met virtually and interviewed the respondent on July 5th, 2024. And the respondent advised that they understood that council knew that the HAF application had been approved and knew that they had signed it and knew there was a confidential clause. I was not aware of that, so I'm somewhat puzzled why that response is there.
Through the chair to the councillor's question, throughout this investigation and prior to me terminating the investigation, I had to determine whether there were grounds to continue. And so what that means is, are the allegations in the complaint triggering sections of your code? And when I interview, whether it's the respondent, member of council, or other witnesses, I ask them to provide me with their understanding of the information, and I determine if it is a fact or if it has been challenged. I received the respondent's supplementary submissions in an interview, and he told me what he understood, and I gleaned that he had received advice from professional staff. And this was what caused him to understand that he had confidentiality obligations. So what the rest of members of council knew or did not know was not subject of my review. But what I did receive in that supplementary interview with the respondent was an understanding that his statements at the council meeting, subject of this complaint, were based on advice from professional staff.
Okay, so when would that come into play then, where council is not informed of something and somebody says they were informed? Is that something that we have to specify in terms of this code of conduct? And I can get the fact or the point you're making that you compare that against the existing code of conduct. If that code of conduct does not reference situations such as that, should we thereby, when we do review, hopefully, and amend it, we have something that indicates that information must be shared in a timely manner?
Through the chair to the councillor, I think there are 2 points here, councillor, and I thank you for your question. The first point is the information that I received from the respondent and the respondent's comments at the May 6th council meeting were based on advice that he had received. The second point is, what should your code of conduct include? And I think I went into a lengthy discussion, perhaps too long, but certainly hoping to be fulsome to you, to let you know that obviously every code of conduct in Ontario requires that members of council be truthful and share information as required and according to statute and your policies. It's just that your code of conduct under confidential information and under decorum did not provide me with sufficient information to look at the allegations and say that there is something that I can actually apply to the situation. So can you include more fulsome language in your code of conduct? You absolutely can. There will have to be a linking with your procedural bylaw, with the Municipal Act. Certainly, I would have to confer with your staff But council may include what they believe needs to be included in the code of conduct, as long as it's allowed. So certainly I feel that, there have to be two points here that are understood. What the respondent said in his interview meeting with me, and whether or not you can have a more robust code of conduct, and you certainly can.
Thank you ever so much.
Most welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Craig. Are there any other questions from council? Okay. Seeing none, I do have one comment to make. I want to thank Councillor O'Meara. Sean, I concur with your comments. I think that they were well spoken. They speak to how we need to evolve and what we need to do to move forward and get this behind us, but to act in a much more appropriate manner. So thank you for the leadership. I believe, Councillor Adams, you put forward a motion to accept the report as written. Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, it passes. Mayor Burton, I pass the gavel back to you.
Thank you very much for that. Council, you have 3 more consent items. How do you wish to dispose of them? Councillor Chisholm.
Your worship, 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4, I move.
All right, I'll call 8.2. Councillor Chisholm, did you want to speak to, I'm sorry, Councillor, how's it deal?
I have a question on 8.2, so I'd like to separate it out, Mayor Burton.
That's what Councillor Chisholm just did. No?
No, I was approving all 3.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
I couldn't understand what you said.
That's
so.
a deep voice, I guess. I got
That's
kind of
that
a
deep
cold.
voice. Well, we're going to do them one by one, just to be sure that everybody gets
That's fine, Your Worship.
what they need. Thanks very much for your attempt to move the meeting along. Councillor Hazlitt-Deal.
I just wanted to double check what is the status of the parking reserve and the parking funds that we accumulate. I may have missed it in the report, and if I did, I apologize, Jonathan, but given that we use those funds to hopefully help get some parking.
Through you, Mayor Burton. Oh, that's really low. There we go. Perfect. So just to confirm the question, Council, you're talking about our discretionary reserve fund for parking. It's in Appendix D. So under discretionary reserve funds, we have one for parking, and it's got the balances listed there with what our projected balance is for the end of the year. So it's projected to end up to $700,000. So if I have the correct one for you.
So are those the funds that we go to for investment in parking structures?
Through you, Mayor Burton. That is part of the items that we have for parking. We also have included in our growth funding tools, there is some parking money there as well. The balance of that, I don't know off the top of my head.
So that seems very low in comparison to, so can you just clarify for me, when we're collecting all the fines for the parking, are they going, less the administrative fees, into this reserve?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So when we have our parking enterprise or parking program, we take a look at it as a program as a whole. So all of our revenue that comes in, there are also lots of costs that go with providing those services. And so we view that whole program as a group. And then the ending balance at the end of the year, if it has a surplus in there, we would transfer that to our parking reserve. And if it is short, we would fund it from our reserve. And likewise, the capital projects that we can are funded out of that balance that's there.
So if you would be so kind offline to walk me through then the last few years of what we've earned in parking reserve, because so I can understand better what we have in terms of potential to invest. I'd appreciate it.
Certainly, we can do that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adams, and then Councillor McNeice.
Thanks very much. I just have a couple of questions of clarification or I guess added information. Under the recreation and culture, there's information here showing that we've got additional revenue from film rentals at Centennial and higher revenue from aquatic program registrations. Can you give us an order of magnitude of what the pool rental numbers are? And can you give us a percentage of how much of our registration take-up is? Are we 100% sold out in all our swim classes, or what's the latest?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I think Director Mitchell might have a better idea. If not, we can certainly get back to you. I don't have that detail right in front of me.
And that's fine. If,
Julie doesn't either,
if we
so
get a
we'll get back
supplemental
to you.
memo, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
That's okay. But there's some good news there that I think we ought to talk about. And the other bit of good news that I was going to ask about is the ridership numbers under the transit. So I see that we've got higher fare revenue numbers, and that's despite the free student, free senior numbers. And I wondered if we've got ridership numbers for the different categories that we have on transit.
Through you, Mayor Burton, we can certainly provide that to you. I believe we'll probably touch on our budget presentations as well coming up. So if that would also be helpful.
Okay, so I'm happy to receive all of that as supplemental memo or something like that at some later date. But good news, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McNeese.
Thank you, through your worship. I can attest that the swimming classes for kids are mostly sold out. Still a few spots left though, but not much. Sign up early. That's my lesson learned. Just following up on Councillor Hazlett's deal on the parking reserve fund. Now that Bronny's made, I guess our pilot's now permanent, I was under the understanding it'd be divided out into two funds, or is it one cumulative fund for all of Oakville? And I guess I'm just talking more of the BIA areas, but wonder if you could provide some clarity.
Through you, Mayor Burton, our entire parking enterprise program is viewed town-wide. So there's not a separate one, there's a separate one for the DC component, but all of the parking enterprise ones are one fund.
Okay, well, thanks for that clarification.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hazlett-Deal.
Sorry, I missed one. So I see that we're trying to get the aerial truck for fire service. Could you just, I don't know if the chief is still here, but how high does that aerial truck go?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I don't know if the chief is here. That's a question I can't answer.
Okay. Hopefully we can, anybody? Nobody. Okay. All right. Does it go 60 stories? Probably not. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Can we have a motion can we have a motion for the indicated resolution in the agenda, please, from one of you? Councillor Hazlett-Deal, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that carries. Thank you, Councillor. Item 8.3 is the Oakville Arts Council Agreement Renewal. Questions or motions? Councillor Chisholm.
I move the motion, however, Councillor Janet, I think, oh no, okay, we're fine. Yeah, I move the report, thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Chisholm. Any objection? There being none, that carries, and I thank both the councillors. 8.4, fishing from town parkland. The motion is that the report be received. Councillor McNeese.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be happy to move it. I just want to make a note that we get the signage kind of coordinated with this initiative. We have some signs saying that there's no fishing allowed and some saying there's nighttime pilots in certain areas, which I believe staff are now aware of. So happy to move it, just with that little caveat.
Thank you, Councillor. Any objection? Councillor Chisholm.
Not an objection. I think we just have to start observing. We're having illegal fishing happening in the region, and it probably will be coming to Oakville. They're doing net fishing, and unfortunately, I believe there's a bylaw with respect to not to be net fishing. So I think that's going to be an issue coming forward soon.
Thank you, Councillor. All right, I see no objection, and Councillor McNeese's motion carries. Thank you, everybody. We have 3 discussion items. The first is sports activities and equipment within municipal rights-of-way. We have a presentation by Lily Lay from our staff, and I hope we can give her our undivided attention on this risk-laden matter.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of council. This is a presentation on the sports activities and equipment within municipal rights-of-way report. In November 2022, council requested that staff report to council on opportunities to allow sports activities to take place on local residential streets in Oakville, and that the report identifies any bylaw amendments or other changes that would be required to allow for these activities to happen. You will find in the report that staff's recommendation is as follows: that the playing of sports activities on town roads continue to be prohibited per Uniform Traffic Bylaw 1984-1 and Municipal Right-of-Way Bylaw 2009-072, and that staff be directed to prepare a sports activity and equipment within municipal rights-of-way procedure outlining the conditions under which enforcement of the prohibition of sports activities and equipment on municipal roads will occur. Should council wish to lift the general prohibition, 2 options are provided for council consideration in the report, and a legal confidential report has been prepared to accompany this public report. Provincial and local laws governing the use of roads and sidewalks prohibit sports activities on roads and sidewalks. The key principles being that roads and sidewalks are for movement of people and vehicles, and that sports activities are best suited for parks, playing fields, community centers, and similar locations. In Oakville, the Uniform Traffic Bylaw states that no person shall play or take part in any game or sport upon a highway. And in the Municipal Right-of-Way Bylaw, the relevant sections prohibit placement of equipment or materials of any kind in a municipal right-of-way, undertaking the activities that negatively impacts the use and function of the municipal right-of-way, encumberment or damage to the municipal right-of-way, congregation sitting or standing that would obstruct the passage of pedestrian and vehicular traffic in the municipal right-of-way. Council has considered previous reports on this matter, including the 2017 report where staff's recommendation was that the general prohibition against sports activities on roads and sidewalks should be retained. 3 options were provided should council wish to lift a general prohibition. They were, number 1, lift the general prohibition and leave it to common sense and judgment of those who wish to play the sports in the municipal right-of-way to do so wisely. Number 2, lift the general prohibition in a limited fashion, providing direction to staff as to what limits town council wish to see imposed, such as sports type, street type, and time of day. Number 3, lift the general prohibition per option 2 and include a provision for street sports activity code of conduct to guide those playing the type of sports permitted. The report was received. No changes to bylaws or enforcement resulted from the report. As noted in the report tonight, staff's recommendation is to maintain the prohibition of sports activities and equipment in the municipal right-of-way. Previous reasons considered in the 2017 reports are still valid today. These include conflict between motorists or pedestrians and sports participants create a hazard. Sports equipment on roads are obstructions and encroachment, which interfere with the primary function of the roads and sidewalks. Sports activities can lead to noise, nuisances, disputes, property damage resulting in liability to road authorities, obstruction to municipal services such as waste collection and snow removal. The risks identified in the 2017 report remain and are outlined in a parallel confidential report prepared by the legal department. There are times when sports activities are permitted in the municipal right-of-way, where road permits can be obtained for organized special events, sports activities, within closed or barricaded areas at limited times. The permit process requires prior public consultation, appropriate notices, vehicle access arrangement, detour routes for motorists and pedestrians, and appropriate executed releases in favor of the town to avoid liability and mitigate risk. Staff completed a multidisciplinary review, including a review of a number of related complaints received, an enforcement approach, and risk and liability to the town, any operation or maintenance impact, jurisdictional scans, and ties to ongoing town master plans. We have included the results of these reviews in the report. Here we would like to highlight the results of the jurisdictional scan. In Halton Region in the city of Mississauga, traffic bylaws prohibit games or sports in municipal right-of-way except for Halton Hills. Municipal right-of-way bylaws prohibit sports equipment in the municipal right-of-way. Other municipalities that we did a scan on include the more nearby ones, Hamilton, Toronto, and Kingston. Some that are further away are Ottawa, Belleville, and Gatineau. These municipalities permit some levels of sports activities with restrictions on types of sports, types of roads, time of day. They all generally prohibit obstructions to sightline, traffic, and municipal services. Not many other municipalities nearby permit sports activities or equipment in the municipal right-of-way. Appendix A of the report is the Outdoor Sports Activities Bylaws Comparison Table. It provides the details of the jurisdictional scan. Regarding Oakville's current enforcement approach, resident complaints about sports activities in the municipal right-of-way come from both sides, those that support and those that are against. Enforcement is on a reactive basis to complaints received. Generally, owners are directed to remove the sports equipment due to safety and/or obstruction concerns. Tickets are not issued for the act of play, and only Halton Region Police can interact with minors. In this report, it is recommended that staff to prepare a procedure that outlines how and when prohibitions against sports activities and sports equipment in the right-of-way will be enforced. Where enforcement remain a complaint or reactive basis when there is a road safety concern, a service impact such as waste collection or snow removal or utility or municipal work, property damage such as utility or municipal property or infrastructure or private properties, injury to individuals, a hazardous condition in the municipal right-of-way while equipment is in use or in private property when stored away, sports equipment that are not in use and is placed in the municipal right-of-way. Should council wish to lift a prohibition, staff offer the following two options. Option 1, lift the general prohibition in a limited fashion to allow sports activities with general guidance. In this option, the required traffic bylaw update would be to remove Section 2C and replace with permitting all sports, if not in contravention of the relevant sections of the municipal right-of-way bylaw. Enforcement changes would include enforcement of the municipal right-of-way bylaw in accordance with the procedure. Equipment removal costs are to be recovered through the town's rates and fees if owner is identified and the equipment is claimed. Any increase in support demands will be monitored. If additional resources is required, it will be requested through following the budgeting process. Option 2, lift the general prohibition in a limited fashion to allow sports activities on only specific types of roads and at certain times of day. For this option, the same section of the traffic bylaw would be removed and replaced with permitting all sports on local roads only from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekdays and weekends. The enforcement changes will be similar to option 1. In addition, staff would also focus on public education of the restrictions to encourage compliance to the bylaws and the procedure. No changes to the municipal right-of-way bylaw are required for either of these options. In summary, this report is prepared in response to Council's request in November 2022 to outline how to allow sports on municipal roads. And staff's recommendation is the is the prohibition of sports activities and equipment within the municipal right-of-way be maintained and be enhanced with a procedure that outlines how and when enforcement will occur. This brings us to the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lee, for the presentation. We have a number of sports fans with their hands up. And if the clerk can take down the presentation mode, it'll assist. Thank you very much. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton, after reading the reports and thinking we're really in the business of prohibiting everything, and I agree with leaving it prohibited. However, I leave it to staff being reactive and not proactive. So if we have some grumpy old person on the street who doesn't like kids having a bit of fun, then he or she can call the town and they can go out or have the police go. But the more I think about this, I love it when I see the kids out on the street playing, whether it be basketball, road hockey in the winter, but just being active outside instead of inside working on their tablets or whatever. So I like the way staff is reacting right now. Complain only and leave it prohibited from a liability to the town point of view. And that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elgar. Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. Could you just explain option 2? You're saying all sports, and yet it talks also about limited. I think there's an also word limited above it. So do you mean all sports?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it is all sports, just to not discriminate the different sports type.
I wasn't aware that sport type was in the Human Rights Code. So what's our worry that we think, like what specific worry do you have that it has to be all?
Through you, Mayor Burton, we know that there are a number of different activities that children like to play outside, and road hockey and basketball are two very popular ones for playing on quiet streets. But there could be others that come up, and we just didn't want to have somebody being enforced because they were playing, touch football or something like that. But in a way, that was in the spirit of all of the other things that would be under option 2. So some of the municipalities that we've looked at have been restrictive. It is ball hockey only. Others have said basketball only. We were trying to respect that there might be other sports that are similar to those that might be played on the road. Netball, as an example, as opposed to basketball, very similar types of equipment.
Okay, thanks for that comment. I'm not sure that, yeah, okay. The cost of a permit if somebody wanted to close the street for their kids to play hockey, ballpark?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have that in front of me, but it is on the rates and fees bylaw.
Right, but we wouldn't be making a deal if a street says, look, we want to be able to close it every Saturday morning for the kids to play. Would we do something special for those folks, or is it going to be the same? You're closing the street, therefore you're going to pay the premium for your kids to get a permit and go through that process?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if the street is required to be closed, then a permit will be required.
Okay, but they could ask for a permit that doesn't close the street.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. What we're looking at is that we are not looking at a permitting process for sports playing at all on the street. So if we're not proposing that in our recommendation, so we would not request any families to ask for a permit just to come and just to play on the street during a certain hour.
Okay, there was a reference to permits in there. That's why I asked. So there's some really great language in the Toronto, Hamilton, and Gatineau information that you gathered, and I really appreciate that you gathered it, including sort of that time of day that you mentioned, et cetera. Do we know if they have had lawsuits as a result of having this by?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're not aware of any.
Okay, so so we've got examples of folks that have been, might appear to be successful, offering these opportunities for the kids to do a lot more than just play on their tablet, et cetera. At the appropriate time, Your Worship, I'd be prepared to move option 2. I think it's important that we find a limited framework that would support active use. My concern with the reactive part is not all the standard safety, you're obstructing the road. Of course, all those should remain in place, but we should put some framework around play. Play occurs no later than a certain time, which you see on, I think in Gatineau and a couple of the others. Kids want to shoot hoops, and most people that are fortunate enough to have a place to put the basketball net it's at the bottom of their driveway, and making it so it is you're welcome to participate and shoot hoops, I think is a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of enforcement, how many complaints do we receive, and are they about the same number as on an ongoing basis?
Through you, Your Worship, thank you for that question. It's actually varied over the past few years. This year, we're already up to 41 complaints. Last year was 29, and in 2022, and this may be due to COVID, we had 80. So it's definitely more significant some years than others.
And thank you. When we receive those complaints, is it the comment about bylaw not being able to be involved with minors? Did I hear that correctly? Like, do we have to get HRPS to respond to kids playing road hockey or basketball?
Through you, Your Worship. Municipal Enforcement Services does not deal with minors, anybody under the age of 16 years old. And with this type of complaint, generally we actually don't deal with the activity. I would concur with council. For the most part, we appreciate kids playing outside, but what we really don't want to support is sort of the storage or misuse of the municipal right-of-way. Generally speaking, our enforcement is focused on the storage of equipment within the MRW, and that is the issue we focus our energy on.
All right, so we've got basketball, we've got road hockey, would skateboarding and radio-controlled cars and pickleball round out the activities of our residents on streets?
Through you, Your Worship, I would expect all of those would be considered as activities within the right-of-way.
Yeah, we have a few streets where there are some pickleball courts painted out. Okay. I guess my major concern is, where do we expect these youth to go if it's not, if they don't have a schoolyard nearby, and if there's, I concur with a number of the comments made by my council colleagues. I don't know where these youth are going to go to stay outside and get a little bit of exercise. And I think about a young John Tavares up in Clearview, or a young Ray Chisholm out in central Oakville when they were playing hockey. I bet you they played a fair amount of road hockey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nanda.
Thank you, through your worship. Thank you so much for the report. And I do concur with a lot of the comments that my colleagues have made. And I do look at how you wrote in the report that it's recognized that sports such as basketball, street hockey are played on small residential roads. And you put it perfectly there, that the health benefits of being outdoor active play and challenges of parents and caregivers taking their kids to parks or community centers just to try to get there and play. And now just with mental health issues and we as parents trying to get our kids off devices, it's like 6 out of 8 months that they can't even play outside. So I feel like we're talking about a few months throughout the year, and maybe if some kids are playing during the winter, but not very likely. So I feel like we don't want to prohibit. I was looking at the different options, and I didn't know if we need to go into in-camera to see the liabilities or legalities, but I was even open to, option one, lifting the general prohibition with some general guidance. But again, I would look at staff to see how we do that. But just the question on the municipal right-of-way and storage, how many complaints do you get? Is it the complaints mainly that there's basketball nets on the municipal right-of-way, or because with hockey, they bring out the nets, they play, and they have to take their hockey nets back. So I'm not sure what equipment is really the big issue here.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Generally speaking, the majority of the complaints are related to basketball nets and the storage of basketball nets, the use of basketball nets, and certainly the noise attributed to the play. As previously noted, Municipal Enforcement Services does focus our effort on the storage and potential hazards of the storage of that equipment. Often one of the complaints we get are from bus drivers or from the trucks that pick up waste. They get damaged by the basketball nets that are left at the boulevard. So that's primarily one of the things that we look at. Certainly, one of the concerns with setting some standards is with that noise threshold, there will be an expectation that Municipal Enforcement Services would not use our discretion to the point that we do today, but rather that we would go through with enforcement at that time because of a noise complaint for children or that sort of thing. So that would sort of remove that discretionary piece from Municipal Enforcement Services.
Okay. Thank you. So just in terms of the options, and I don't know, Your Worship, if we would have to go into in-camera for the liabilities or legalities, or maybe just get more information, because I saw in the report that there is you're worried about some liabilities on the town if we do lift it as a general prohibition. So I'm not sure if you can speak to that.
I'm sorry. Through you, Mayor Burton, we do have legal counsel available if you wish to go on camera to discuss any issue on this point.
I think more so, I'm not sure if we need to go in camera. I'm just wondering if it's a huge liability if we do choose one of these options.
Again, through you, Mayor Burton, I don't think that's a question we can answer in public session.
Okay, we can leave it for now. We can have other questions first and then see.
All righty. Thank you, Councillor Nanda. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you for this. Unfortunately, we're only as good as the worst among us in these issues, right? You've got the naggy complainers, and then you do have some kids who are, will scream for 8 hours straight, and I get there's got to be a happy medium somewhere. Our fire services has the ability to determine whether or not smoke is a nuisance, and they show up and they will determine whether what you're doing is a nuisance. Is there no way that we can give our bylaw officers the same sort of ability to determine whether or not they're judging something to be a nuisance or not? And that way they can sort of use their common sense, like have an adult in the room for the adults in the room kind of thing. Is that not a possibility to put something in place like the smoke bylaw that we have?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Generally speaking, today we do use a great deal of discretion and review each each case on its own merits. So if it were for children where the primary concern is kids are playing basketball, but they're really upset because it's the noise from the children. And we get this complaint a lot with pools, where people are upset because they can hear the children laughing and screaming and playing. Municipal Enforcement Services does not deal with kids' noise from playing. We will tell people that all day long, every day. If you're talking about something at 1 o'clock in the morning and people are out playing basketball in the street and yelling and screaming at that point, now you have our attention. But if it's during the day, certainly that's not one of the concerns that we're looking at. We use our discretionary ability for that. But we would deal with, again, that storage component where the basketball net is not being removed after the play.
Okay, and I guess, I mean, if we have a law, though, stating that it's not allowed to be there, and somebody complains, we must go and attend to that, and we must have them come into compliance, though. There's no discretion there, is there?
Through your worship, we do apply some discretion. Now, understanding that we're not able to make it there at the time. The chances of us being able to respond in, an hour or so of the complaint coming in is not likely. Oftentimes, we really are forced to deal with that matter in a reactive way. And again, we won't deal with the children. So we're really looking at, do we go start knocking on doors and find out who these children belong to? Where it's much easier to deal with a net, where we can typically find out who's responsible for that particular net.
Okay. Yeah, and I appreciate it. I mean, a lot of these basketball nets, they take a great amount of weight on the bottom in order to make them stable. So it's not like you just wheel it down, play, and wheel it back. Like it takes, especially if you're a kid, you can't do that by and large. So I think we're really starting to limit kids just having fun. I agree. I know we had a problem with somebody cementing in a basketball post in the municipal right of way, and obviously that's a bit of a different thing. But yeah, I really just think we're sort of father knows best here a little bit, and I think we need to maybe just step back and let it go. So I'll support option number 2 as well on that. But thank you very much for those answers.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. First of all, I support Councillor Hazathiel's proposed motion. And I do like the idea of, in addition to types of streets and restrictions on hours, also the idea, I think I saw in Toronto, where they restricted to certain streets at different speeds. I think that might be worthwhile as well. I'm not sure 40 is the right number, but whatever it is, I strongly support that initiative. Just a couple of comments, a couple of questions and a comment. So we've talked about enforcement and what is a common bylaw complaint. So how often do we actually charging people? Do we have an idea of how often somebody's being charged versus just being warned or whatever the circumstances are?
Through you, Your Worship, the majority of the cases we investigate are dealt with through an order initially. The vast majority of people comply with the order. There's only a few that would not, in which case they would be issued a penalty, and we would likely remove whatever sporting good equipment that was. They do have an opportunity to come pick that up from our storage facility, of course, if they pay the administrative fee.
Right.
But those are few and far between.
So those are few and far between. Are we actually enforcing no sports playing, though? If somebody's out there with a lacrosse stick and a rubber ball, are we writing little Johnny up a ticket, or his dad or his mom, or is that just a warning kind of thing too?
Through you, Your Worship, to my experience and knowledge, during my time here, we have never issued a ticket for that offense.
Okay. Okay, just a couple comments. I've been here a long time, representing a ward that has, like most wards, but I think our ward probably had the most recent cycle of kids, predominance of kids in River Oaks and Oak Park, and now College Park is booming again with children. And I've certainly had complaints as a councillor over the years. Those complaints almost always related to either neighborhood disputes, so little Johnny's out playing lacrosse or basketball and somebody is demanding the silence, they don't want to hear children, or equipment. I totally am on side with the equipment piece. I think there needs to be regulations around the equipment, because equipment like basketball nets take up parking, and we all know that parking is a premium, particularly North Oakville. And it also can cause dangers. You can easily crash into it if it's not properly taped, and they do tip and they do fall and they hurt people when they fall if they're not properly secured. So I'm fine with that. But I strongly think that we need to get off the backs of the kids. You know, we heard today that kids need a chance to play. They need a place to play. In a world where we are building homes with postage stamp-sized backyards, if there's a backyard at all, we're really limiting the places and opportunities for children to get physical activity. And I think that restricting the streets, particularly residential streets, is a mistake. I mean, I played sports, doesn't look like it, but I played sports when I was a kid all the time. Our big thing was lacrosse at the time. A little bit of hockey, but mostly lacrosse. I'm not sure why. That just was the game of the day, I guess. Shows my age. And I'm here to tell you, I've never been hit, injured, or otherwise. Well, I got injured a couple times with getting balls to the eye, but other than that, I've never injured by a vehicle or anything that was related to the municipality. So I think that, you know, this is a case of, in my opinion, overregulation of fun. I think it's important also to, and I hear what Councillor Elgar says, and we have a very good practice of enforcement on complaint, compliance on complaint, and that serves us well. But I'll tell you where it breaks down. It breaks down where craggy old Joe, the neighbor who doesn't want some kid playing basketball, knows that the bylaw, and I've had this happen a million times, knows that the bylaw is the way it is, and he's out there yelling at the kids or yelling at the parents, and all of a sudden now you have a dispute in the neighborhood. I've lost track of the number of times that I've had to show up and deal with that, try to help deal with that myself instead of it becoming a bylaw thing. And it's usually old craggy Joe is usually pretty recalcitrant in his views, and he's not going to budge. So I strongly support this. And I just want to, this again is maybe dating myself a little bit. Most of you probably remember the old commercial or the old cartoon at Christmas time. What was it called? Santa Claus is coming to town, and there was that character, the Burgermeister Meisterburger, who tripped on a toy and banned toys throughout the kingdom. Well, let's not turn this into a town where the Burgermeister Meisterburger is controlling the activities of kids. I've heard this, but I completely reject the notion that children having fun is ever a nuisance. When children having fun is a nuisance, that's the time to pack it up and go home, frankly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. I agree with a lot of the comments made this evening with respect to this. Sometimes I wonder, we're in the business of, with a sledgehammer, killing a flea with respect to some of our bylaws. Notwithstanding, I am in favor of option 2. Just to give you some background, yes, when I grew up in Oakville, our biggest sport, of course, was hockey. We played in parking lots, driveways, Robinson Street, Navy Street. Didn't do Lakeshore, of course, because it's too busy. So, you know, common sense that a kid at 10 years old realizes that you don't play on Lakeshore Road. All the years that I've been involved in Oakville with respect to, we even played street hockey when we were teenagers and young men. We always found a spot, and you're right, the equipment always moved. We always took the nets home because we were afraid somebody else would steal them. So we would take them home and do that. So, and we never had a problem. But however, that was way back in the, we'll go way back, in the 60s and the early 60s. Way back. With respect to that, things have changed, absolutely. But I'm of the agreement of option 2 for the simple reason, I don't like using the word weaponized, but I think some of our residents have weaponized that bylaw, and they know what the bylaw is, and they're using it against our kids. The reality of it is liability. Let's talk about liability briefly. Any activity, sport, or program that we have in our facilities and so forth, we're liable. It could be a due diligence thing or something that's happened in our programs that sometimes we're being sued or whatever the case may be. So it's there. So I'm not, that argument doesn't hold with me with respect to the liability, knowing full well we haven't had a propensity of any, I guess, being sued and so forth. But the idea of creative play is being very limited these days because we build everything for children in rec facilities and programs and fields. And the unfortunate part, even accessibility for kids to get into these programs or get onto these activities is tight. And I think it was clearly articulated by Councillor McNeice is that the swim programs are full and we have waiting lists. So what do we do with our children? And if I was an adult, I'd like to have my children in eyesight with respect to playing, creative playing in the neighborhood and understanding the neighbors. And this is sometimes a good thing because it brings the community together, neighborhoods together because they know the kids and they know the parents. It is a responsibility of every Canadian citizen to have kids playing road hockey. and I make that statement. So I am in favor of option 2, and I totally agree there should be conditions and guidelines with respect to that, and an education process to those kids and to their parents, what you can do and what you can't do. With respect to the equipment, we had a challenge one year where a very creative and innovative parents built skate ramps on the cul-de-sac. And unfortunately, that impeded traffic and so forth, and I can understand that. So there are 2 issues here. The activity itself, I'm fine with, but the equipment and so forth has to be removed. Now, getting to the basketball courts, the nets and back, those are difficult to move, but they are off the street. They're not necessarily on the roadway. They're usually on the right-of-way for the kids, so they're playing a one-on-one basketball. If we're going to eliminate basketball, then sure bet we better start building more basketball courts in our parks and so forth, because it is a very active sport, and they play one-on-one, they play 2-on-2 and 3-on-3, and that's very important. So knowing that, let's be very careful what we eliminate and what we keep, but I totally agree with option 2, and I'm in support of option 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Grant.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm pleased that the discussion is going in this direction. Much like maple syrup, there's something very much about the Canadian experience of a group of kids yelling "car" and moving their nets off the street as everybody approaches. And certainly, having gone through some neighborhoods and seeing all the basketball hoops up, I realize that can be an issue. We do need to define things, and that sort of gets me back to, when we talk about all sports, we really do need to try and hone in on what all sports can be. Famously on, I think it was Park Lane Road, during a heavy winter, somebody was taking their snowmobile up and down the street. Snowmobiling is a sport. So nothing motorized, different things that are difficult to move. We really need to sort of talk about what sports are rational to have within a streetscape. But certainly, I do agree with option 2. Again, when we're in a world where everybody's being programmed for this, or this is a program we've got to go to, it's nice for a group of kids just to have a pickup game with their friends in the neighborhood and enjoy themselves. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adams.
All right, looks like we're going to round the world on this item. So I think I'm going to align myself with Councillor Elgar this evening. I'm a little bit concerned about option 2, in particular the way the timing is listed under the table on page 104. I really think if we're going to go that way, it really ought to be set to sunset or something like that, instead of a particular hour. But nonetheless, this is really a non-issue. In the years I've been on council, I think I've handled, probably can count on my fingers the number of times that we've had to deal with something in the ward on this. And it's almost entirely related to where the nets are. I think there might have been one case where somebody was complaining about the kids, but the underlying issue was a neighborly dispute, and it was really about where the net was on the street being stored. And so this is, I think we're chasing around something that is not worth chasing around on. We've heard from our staff that we don't go after the kids, basically. And so I just think it's a non-issue.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McNeice.
Through your worship, I'm fine with option 2. I think this is a case where the municipality kind of has to get out of the way, let the kids play. It's a Canadian tradition. I got to do it as a kid on an Oakville street, and all kids should get that experience. Just one question. I noticed in Mississauga that even though on the matrix, it's got a similar prohibition, but I've been reading up that they have it coming back to council, I believe, next month. Now, they did a survey around some of the questions we have in number 2 around what sports, what times of day, and where. If we go with option 2, would we be surveying to sort of hone in on those details?
Certainly, Council. We could take that approach of actually going out and surveying and doing a little bit more work in terms of describing the various pieces that would be part of option 2. So absolutely, that could be part of. I've actually seen the surveys that they've had in Mississauga, and
it's worth it to understand the various aspects that Councillor Grant, Councillor Knoll have spoken to tonight.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think as much as we may feel that we over-survey, but I think we might get some good insights. In Mississauga survey looked like it was quite well done. You know, I just worry that some residential streets aren't the same, and I'm just thinking, you know, I grew up on Ventura, it's a J-shaped street that's, you know, one end was used as a shortcut and some faster traffic, but the lower end was great for sports, and we naturally migrated towards that. But you take, you know, a street over Yolanda, and now we've got QEPCC there, and people, even though it's a residential street, they're racing to get to their swim class and things like that. It may not be as safe for children on the street playing sports. So I think we have a bit of work to do, but, you know, I agree with option 2 that we should be starting to move ourselves out of the way, let kids get out in the street, and, you know, fewer video games and things like that. I think that's good for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Liszczyna.
Thank you, Your Worship. I find it interesting that everyone who's played sports so far throughout the years on the roads has done so according to status quo of what the current bylaw is. So I'm very big into physical activity and kids being active. And I think the approach we have right now, you know, with 40 complaints or so and, you know, 20,000 residents, I believe this is a non-issue as well. And based on what I heard from staff about the reactive approach and what we're actually looking at, again, I don't think this is an issue. I guess my concern is if we do option 2 or make all sorts of rules now, what are I mean, we're going to need more FTEs with respect to bylaw officers. I mean, it just seems like we're really creating way more work than I think we need to, because right now there's kids playing all over the place, and yes, maybe you know, a grouchy neighbor, and potentially the next street over is where the 10 kids that play the hockey on the street are going to move to. So I'm just I think with respect to the legal ramifications, I'm in for status quo.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar.
Mayor Burton, I realize it's the second time, but I guess what I would like to do is delay making a decision on this item until we have had in-camera legal advice. I really feel we're maybe making a mountain out of a molehill, but I want to make sure we have the right legal advice in camera. So if we could could we move this item to the end of the regular items and go in camera, and then at the end come out again to vote on this issue?
Councillor, we could go into camera now. I don't think it'll take long. You have a detailed opinion from the legal staff already that I'm sure everybody read carefully. If you have questions about it, I don't see any problem with doing it now. People who may be watching wanting to see the result of this would be more inconvenienced by having to wait to the end of the meeting to get the final decision, if you see what I'm thinking. So,
okay, I would say I would move, if we get a motion to move into camera, just to get I just want some clarification from staff on a couple issues regarding to liability.
Just a minute, I'll get the proper motion for you.
Thank you.
All right. Council, it's moved by Councillor Elgar that Council go into a session closed to the public as is permitted under Section 239, Sub 2 of the Municipal Act, because it deals with advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and or litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. And let me see if we have any objection to that motion. Councillor Knoll, are you objecting?
Oh, sorry, no, I was waiting to speak to it again.
All right, well, you're going to have to wait a little bit. All right. So,
Mayor Burton, yeah, sorry, I just want, and I could be mistaken. Is there anybody in the chamber that would like to speak to it before we do it?
No,
go
sir.
into camera?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
as you've indicated, it's an issue for council. I'm not sure the public is animated on this. All right, I see no objection to the councillor's motion. I declare it carried, and we'll take a short bio break while the staff arrange the meeting facilities for a session closed to the public. All right, we will resume our public session, having been in camera for a session under the Municipal Act that allows us to hear from our legal department for information that's subject to solicitor-client privilege and the communications necessary for that purpose. When we last were in public, we were discussing we have a motion to adopt the second option in the report, and that would be that we lift the general prohibition of on sports activities within the municipal right-of-way in a limited fashion to allow sports activities on only specific types of roads and at certain times of day. And I believe, and that was moved by Councillor Haslett-Deal, and I believe that Councillor Haslett-Deal would like to add to that that we get continuing updates from the legal department on the state of this matter around the municipalities in Ontario. Is that correct?
Mayor Burton, I've tried to quickly type up something that I'll read to others and see how they feel about it, and I welcome their input. That we lift the general prohibition in a limited fashion to allow identified sports to be determined on only specific roads and at certain times to be determined through a staff report that further informs us on best practices in other jurisdictions that enable some play.
All right. Is there any discussion of this motion? Councillor Elgar.
Mayor Burton, I would just ask for recorded vote on this one, please.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you, Councillor Elgar. Recorded vote is available on request before or after the vote. Councillor Haslett-Deal, are you, your hand's up? So is Councillor Knowles. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you. Can I just ask the mover if she would consider adding to, I know it doesn't eliminate risk, but it might help mitigate some risk, and that is to add the words "at the player's own risk" in that motion somewhere. So
Happy to do so.
Thank you. And just speaking to the motion, I'll be supporting the motion today. I know that some of my colleagues have said, you know, leave well enough alone because it's been working. The problem that we have is, one, we've raised it. And it's now out there. And this is, I guarantee you that Ben and David, who write for the two local papers, this will probably be the main story they'll take away from today's meeting, and you're going to be circulating this information, both to either frustrate families or enable people that frankly don't like kids playing. So I think that, you know, had this issue never come up and we maintained our standard practice of, what's that, don't say, don't tell, in terms of the bylaw enforcement, then, you know, we would have been okay. But we've raised this issue. It's been raised, which means that we're now aware of it. We're aware of the liabilities. We're aware of the challenges that exist, and we're also aware of the fact that we've created a public discourse on the issue. So I support this and look forward to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Haslett-Deal.
I just want to make sure that I have Councillor Elgar's comments typed up because the clerk would like them in writing. Sorry, Councillor Knoll, sorry. That we lift the general prohibition in a limited fashion to allow identified sports to be determined on only specific types of roads and at certain times of day, to be determined at the player's own risk through a staff report that further informs us on best practices in other jurisdictions. Do I need to put anything else? Because I'm open to it. Okay, I will leave that as what I'm sending to the clerk and the motion that I'm putting on the floor.
Thank you, Councillor, for all your hard work. That captures everything I've heard here. All righty. I'm going to call the vote, and in the absence of anyone else wanting to speak, I'm going to indicate my reasons for not supporting it. What we heard here is that in public, we've never prevented kids from playing. We go around and we ask people to move equipment out of the municipal right-of-way when it is obstructive to the rest of the business of the town, and I don't see anything wrong with that. It's my opinion that lifting the general prohibition in even a limited way will increase in some degree the risk that falls on the rest of the taxpayers of the municipality. And I don't think that's really what we need to do here when we're not preventing kids from playing. So it seems like an unnecessary thing to do, and the only benefit to my eye is going to be an increased level of risk of some degree on the general taxpayer. Thank you. Shall I call the vote? Councillor Hazzathiel, your hand is up. Did you want to?
As the mover, Mayor Burton, I would like to respond to that. I believe that we ask our municipal enforcement folks to go out, and while I respect that they've always been educational and take an informing approach to try and manage the situation, we're asking them to do that, and it puts families feeling very much like they have to justify their kids shooting some hoops. And I think what we've come to tonight is a limited approach to it. It will be, at the player's risk. It will enable someone to use good judgment. And as parents, I think Councillor McNeese said it earlier, the community would keep an eye also on these children. And so while yes, we've allowed kids to play, we've also had municipal enforcement officers showing up at people's doors and making people feel pretty bad about doing something that we all were able to do. And while you might be able to do it, the law says it's prohibited. And that's speaking out of two sides of our mouth.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other speakers? All right, if you're in favor of the motion, you will respond yes, and if you're against it, you'll respond no when the clerk does the roll call. Madam Clerk?
Councillor O'Meara?
Yes.
Councillor McNeese?
Yes.
Councillor Duddick?
Yes.
Councillor Chisholm?
Yes.
Councillor Giddings?
Yes.
Councillor Hazzathiel?
Yes.
Councillor Elgar?
No.
Mayor Burton?
No.
Councillor Knoll?
Yes.
Councillor Grant?
Yes.
Councillor Adams?
No.
Councillor Lischina?
No.
Councillor Nanda?
No.
Councillor Shi?
No.
That's 6 nays and 8 yes.
I declare the motion carried. Congratulations to the mover and the supporters. Can we turn now, please, to 10.2, the 2024 Neighborhood Traffic Safety Program Update. We have a presentation by Mohammed Imran, and I would like to, I hope he's here, yes, and I'd like us to give our attention to Mr. Imran.
Good evening, Mayor Burton and council members. I'm pleased to provide third annual update on the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Program. Neighborhood Traffic Safety Program was established in 2021. It has these listed road safety components. Tonight, I'll provide update on the work completed so far in 2024, ongoing projects that will be completed by end of this year, planned work for 2025, and the budget request for each component of the program. In addition to the updates on the ongoing and future initiatives, we are also responding to these 4 information reports that we received from Council. First component is AC program. We installed AC cameras coming soon signs in last week of August and also launched the communication campaign. We will be the first municipality to launch ASC program under APS system after Toronto. Toronto is starting their APS system from November 1st and will be onboarded short after Toronto. Our program is on track to be launched from first week of December. We already have budget for this year's, to start the program this year. The 2025 budget of $2.89 million is estimated based on 40,000 ASC charges with estimated penalty amount of $2.73 million. Traffic calming process was updated last year, September. It has been working well. With the lower response rate thresholds, we are seeing more streets being qualified for implementing traffic calming. This year, design and public consultation was completed for these 6 streets. And all of these streets qualified the resident surveys and construction is in progress. 11 more streets met warrants to proceed to design and public consultation. In 2025, we will conduct design and public consultation for these 11 streets, and traffic calming will be implemented on those that qualify resident surveys. We will also continue assessing new requests for traffic calming in 2025. So these are the, we are responding to, as I mentioned in earlier slide, responding to the information requests from council. First is level 1 traffic calming. In September 2023, council directed staff to explore options to implement traffic calming on streets that do not meet the traffic calming speed thresholds. We reviewed options for implementing level 1 traffic calming treatments on the streets that fail to meet the traffic calming thresholds by up to 2 km/h. We recommend installation of flexible street signs and adding these streets to annual rotation list for radar speed display signs. Traffic calming removal process. We have extended the traffic calming removal from 2 to 5 years to allow for residents to get used to it. The removal process will follow the same steps that we have for traffic calming implementation. Traffic calming using Local Improvements Act. This act gives opportunity to residents to share project costs with the municipalities to obtain municipal services. It works well for projects like sewers and water mains where it's easy to determine benefiting properties and allocate project costs. In case of traffic calming, it's difficult to identify specific benefiting properties because a broader area residents can benefit from traffic calming. It also undermines the town's traffic calming process, which is based on technical assessment rather than financial capacity. Therefore, staff do not recommend using Local Improvement Act for funding traffic calming projects. School zone traffic calming on major arterials and collector roads. Construction of traffic calming for 3 school zones was completed in fall 2023. It impacted school traffic during school start and dismissal times. Based on this experience, all future school traffic calming in school zones will be scheduled during the summer break. Therefore, 4 traffic calming locations planned for construction in 2024 will be constructed along with 4 2025 locations next year during the summer break. Also designed for 4 2026 locations will be completed next year for construction in 2026 summer. Valley Ridge Drive at Palermo Public School frontage is a major collector road. Despite its road classification, speed cushions would benefit this school zone because unlike other school zones on major collectors, there's no alternate route for drivers to divert to nearby streets and bypass the implemented speed cushions. Therefore, as an exception, staff recommend installing speed cushions on this section of Valley Ridge Drive. Budget request of 2.5 million for traffic calming program is included in 2025 budget. Installation of 20 PXOs was completed in April 2024, and installation of another 15 PXOs will start in fall, which will bring the total number of installed PXOs to 103. Next year, in 2025, we will install 28 PXOs as part of capital program and crosstown trail construction. Also, this year, we are doing lighting analysis for 41 existing PXOs, which is in progress, and lighting installation will be completed for 5 existing PXOs this year, and will continue based on 5 locations per year in 2025 and future years. We are also doing a pedestrian update to the pedestrian safety study. We did the pedestrian safety study in 2017, which identified 170 locations for PXO installations. So in 2025, we'll do the update to the study, and this study will also include identify additional pedestrian roads and recommend new criteria for PXO and pedestrian signal installations. The budget request of 1.595 million for PXO program is included in 2025 budget. Implementation of these road safety initiatives is in progress or will be completed by end of this year. These initiatives are identified as a result of reactive or proactive assessments. We are requesting 310,000 in 2025 budget for these road safety initiatives. In-service road safety review for section of Brandy Road and intersection of North Service Road and third line is in progress, and it will be completed by end of October. Any recommended safety treatments will be implemented in 2025. We are implementing 2 additional community safety zones this year and will continue with additional assessments during 2025. 2025 budget request for implementing safety treatments and in-service road safety reviews is 340,000. We completed construction for 2 pedestrian signals and 2 traffic signals this year. Traffic signal construction at Glen Ashton Drive and Caldwell Drive will start in fall. And signal installation at Dundas Street and Taunton will be completed in 2025. In 2025 budget, 4 pedestrian signals will be installed. Budget request of 610,000 is included in 2025 budget. SPM implementation along Rebecca Street is in progress. It will be completed by end of 2024. Budget request of 100,000 is included in 2025 budget for traffic signal optimization projects. We have completed traffic signal optimization on Lakeshore Road between Dorwell Drive and Allen Street, and new signal timing plans will be implemented in October. Traffic safety assessment in West Harbor neighborhood is completed. Study included assessment of operating speeds, always stop assessments, and parking utilization on residential streets. The study results do not show any evidence of excessive speeding or excessive on-street parking. Loyalist Trail study was completed. This safety review study included assessment of operating speeds and mitigation treatments to prevent trucks from entering into the residential area. So the study recommends modifying intersections of Phoenix Way, Post Road, and Eternity Way with Loyalist Trail and Burnham Thorpe Road to prevent heavy trucks from using the streets. The study did not identify any excessive speeding to implement any traffic calming. This study recommendations have no impact on 2025 budget because this project, these intersection modifications will be included in the Burnham Thorpe Road reconstruction project. The study recommendations will be communicated to the residents in fall. As per council direction, we will conduct public consultation in Heritage Way neighborhood for changing posted speed limit from 40 to 50 km/h in October and report back to council in fall 2024. 2025 budget request for traffic calming studies and reactive safety assessments is 125,000. This year, we continued with pedestrian and traffic safety campaign by displaying ads in transit shelters. We started a new campaign with messaging to educate drivers and pedestrians about their responsibilities at a PXO. This year, we carried out public consultation for the traffic calming projects to qualify streets for implementing traffic calming. We will conduct public consultation with the Marine Drive residents and residents of West Harbor and Loyalist Trail residents. We will also continue to keep residents updated about the upcoming launch of ASC program in December 2024. These tables provide the component-wise breakdown of 2025 capital budget for neighborhood traffic safety program and 2025 operating budget for ASC program. The total capital budget request for neighborhood traffic safety program is over 5.9 million, and the requested budget for ASC program is approximately 2.9 million, which also includes 575,000 for additional staffing resources, which is still to be considered in the budget process. Staff recommends continued implementation of neighborhood traffic safety program to be considered as part of 2025 budget and prioritized along with the other known budget pressures. That concludes my annual update on the program. I'll be pleased to answer any questions that members of council may have.
Mr. Emmerich, thank you very much for so comprehensive and thorough a report on the ongoing efforts of our neighborhood traffic safety program. As it happens, you have earned some questions, at least 4 that I can see so far. We'll start with Councillor Chisholm and then Councillor Nanda, Councillor Giddings, Councillor Adams, Councillor McNeice. You may get the whole council before you're done.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mohammed, first of all, thank you for this report, this detailed report. It's very aggressive of a report moving forward, and I'm glad we're moving as quickly as possible. Could you go to slide number 10, please? I just got a clarification or a question. Yeah, the 2025 work plan, design construction of 15 PXOs will be completed in 2025. That's a lot of PXOs going up. Am I to assume they are all overhead lights flashing on the sides and over the roadway?
Through you, Mayor Burton. These PXOs are not necessarily all with the flashers. There are 3 types, type D, type B, and type C. Type B and C come with the flashers, and type D PXOs are only signs and pavement markings. And they are installed based on the traffic volume, pedestrian volume, and roadway characteristics.
So how many are we putting up with the flashing in 2025?
Through you, Mayor Burton. It's in the report, I believe, from we have 3 type Bs, and we have rest of them 3 type Cs, and the rest are type D.
Okay, my apologies. Is that in the report? I might have missed it.
It's, through you, Mayor Burton, it's in the appendices of the report.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Chisholm. Councillor Nanda?
Thank you, through your worship. Thank you so much, Imran. I know how hard you've worked on this report, and you're constantly there when we're looking for something, especially traffic calming. Your team have done an exceptional job trying to keep our communities safe. So I really wanted to put that out there and say thank you to you. In terms of, we were discussing the Loyalist Trail part, and I know we had a discussion before, but in terms of putting in those safety measures, we're not looking at that being done right away. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Burton. These intersection modifications will come with the Burnham Road reconstruction project, which construction is expected in approximately 3 years.
Okay. So in terms of enforcement, have we had any recent updates on how many trucks are illegally using those roads, Phoenix Way, Eternity Way, that they should not be using?
Through you, Mayor Burton. I can get those stats from Halton Police and our enforcement and get back to you.
And if we see that there's still a clear issue where they're not following the rules, is there something temporary we can put in place? Because in terms of the development that was causing a lot of this truck traffic, it's pretty much been completed. So I think in 3 years, there won't be the same issue that we're having today. So if enforcement determines that there is still an issue with the trucks, is there something that we could do on a temporary basis?
Through you, Mayor Burton, not only enforcement stats, we will also do the study just to see like what's the truck volume on the streets right now.
Mhm.
If it's higher, we will definitely consider some temporary treatments.
Okay, and we'll be able to bring this report out to the community and to the residents in the next month or so?
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes, Councillor.
Okay, thank you so much, Imran.
Thank you, Councillor. Next, we have Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the report. On page 120, it talks about the lighting improvements at existing PXOs. Could you clarify what the difference would be on the 2024 PXOs versus the PXOs that were installed before that? Is it intensity of light, the size of the lights? I'm just curious.
Through you, Mayor Burton, this lighting is not related to the flasher of the PXO. This is actually the illumination at the PXO location. From 2024, any PXOs that we are installing the lighting fixtures along with the PXOs. So the locations prior to 2024, we are reviewing the photometric analysis, we are doing the lighting analysis and adding lighting fixtures to those locations to increase illumination because it's safer for pedestrians, particularly at nighttime.
All right, thank you. I know that the flashing lights in downtown Oakville, my goodness, you can see them from Ward 2 as you're approaching downtown. We still have a number of cars that don't believe that those lights apply to them and they don't feel the need to stop. So in your opinion, it's not the light's fault, it would be the driver's fault, I take it, in terms of not paying attention to them?
Through you, Mayor Burton. Yes, that's driver behavior, I would say.
So the traffic optimization has been completed on Lakeshore from Dorval to Allen, and that's going to be implemented over the coming weeks, according to the report. That optimization, does it tie in with the PXOs at all, or are they totally separate in terms of their operation?
Through you, Mayor Burton, PXOs are separate because PXOs cannot be coordinated with the traffic signals.
All right, and next question is the 2025 work plan of optimization on Cornwall Road as well as 8th line. Does that go from Trafalgar over, or is it from the bottom of Spears over eastbound?
It starts, through you, Mayor Burton, it starts from Trafalgar Road.
All right, so what do we do with Trafalgar? That's a regionalized intersection in terms of lighting, the lights, correct?
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes, Trafalgar is a regional road. All the signalized intersection on Trafalgar region does their timing.
All right, we get, so how does that tie in with the region? We get calls on a regular basis from people that, as we know, it's a horrendous intersection in terms of traffic currently and likely won't be getting better. So people make the left turn from southbound Trafalgar onto eastbound Cornwall and immediately hit a red light at the just south of Beertown Plaza there. Is this the optimization? Will that look after this kind of signal movements?
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes, we will look at those kind of issues. We'll definitely look into that. But just to Trafalgar and that intersection, Cornwall, that intersection will its timing will govern because that's a major intersection. We'll have to look into that timing first. If we have to sacrifice the timing on the next intersection, that's a local one, we'll do, but that issue would definitely be looked after.
Thank you. And that'll be in conjunction with the region as north regional lights feed into that intersection. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes, that's correct.
All right, and my last question, I read with interest that there's a PXO or a pedestrian at Cornwall west of Maple Grove. How far west of Maple Grove would that be? Is that closer to Morrison intersection at Cornwall?
Through you, Mayor Burton, this stretch is 1.2 kilometer between Morrison and Maple Grove, and this pedestrian signal is mid-block, is by the bus stops, because we had complaints from pedestrians who are using the transit and they were crossing, and it's a 4-lane road. We did the study, so that warranted the installation of a PXO, but PXO cannot be installed on a 4-lane road, arterial road. It was so that's why it was upgraded to pedestrian signal.
All right, I recall conversations with one of the businesses in the area. There were some parking concerns, and they had workers or customers, I'm not quite sure which, making use of parking across the road. So would this be a revenue share with that business? I'm just thinking in terms of how many other possible crossovers that we may have to add along that stretch or any other stretch for that matter.
Through you, Mayor Burton, we understand that there's some been some previous discussions on this topic, and so we will be working with. We'll be taking back to learn a little bit more about the history of this before we implement that signal. And but the signal review that we did was based on the characteristics of the road, the number of people who were crossing, the speed of the road, the volume, and checking that against the warrants to see if it did meet them. As Imran explained, we did find that work met the warrants to install a signal in this location.
Great. Thank you, Imran. Thank you, Director. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adams.
Thanks very much. Just have 2 areas of question. One on the ASC program budget. Is there an assumed ticket amount, or is that a number that's going to vary tremendously? Because I'm just looking at the number of charges expected versus the budget, and whether we have an average ticket amount or.
Through you, Mayor Burton, we estimated this budget based on the estimated ticket value, because ASC tickets amounts, they vary because it's based on the number of kilometers of infraction over the posted speed limit. So ticket amount varies. We used an average ticket amount to estimate budget for 40,000 tickets. So the penalty amount, which is 2.73 million, which is based on estimated ticket value. So once we run the program for 1 year, we actually start getting the penalties, then we'll have better sense like how much is the average penalty amount.
And the average that we're using, is it based on some numbers from another location, or?
We estimate this, through you, Mayor Burton, we estimated this number based on the infraction of 11 kilometers per hour over the posted speed limit.
So 11 over the limit, okay. And so that's the average ticket amount. And I guess there's, are the tickets through ASC generally less than the tickets that would be given out by an officer? Because an officer would only be giving out tickets at higher speeds generally?
Through you, Mayor Burton, ticket amounts are the same because the set fine is.
But the average might be higher for officers, because an officer is only going to bother giving out a ticket if it's, I don't know, 20 over or something maybe.
Could be, through you, Mayor Burton, could be. And another thing is the ASC tickets, they have MTO lookup fee, which is embedded into the ticket. That is $8.25, which is included in the ticket.
I'm sorry, it's how much?
$8.25
okay.
in each ASC ticket. It has victim fine surcharge, which varies based on the amount of the fine. And it has set fine, which is 5 kilometers per hour over the posted speed limit. If someone is traveling at 10 km/h, so the set fine will be $50 plus $10 or $15 victim fine surcharge, and $8.25 is the MTO lookup fee.
Okay, so we're assuming that our average ticket's going to be in the order of $60 to $70 or something.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. And it looks like it is intended to quite closely balance the expenses, so it's a revenue neutral amount. So, and then the other question I had for you was on page 117, the traffic calming removal process. We've got, and I appreciate this is a very specific local issue. On Pinery, we've got an individual who's interested in reviewing the traffic calming that we put in a few years ago. And I understood that there was going to be a consultation or some kind of public process associated with that. Can you give an update on that? And I understand that the individual's emailed our staff about it. I wonder if we can get that addressed.
Through you, Mayor Burton. So on Pinery, we will be doing the survey in fall. Pinery will follow the same 2-year process because that meets that requirement. Moving forward, we are recommending 2 to 5 years.
Okay, so Pinery will fall under the old existing policy, and then going forward, we'll move to the 5-year process. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor McNeese.
Thank you, through your worship. Thanks to Imran and staff. Great reports, very detailed, and thanks for all the work you do. Just 2 quick questions. So great to hear on Valley Ridge with the speed cushions in front of the Palermo Elementary Public School. I believe last year, though, we were also looking at Colonel William Parkway, St. Mary's Elementary School, which is one kind of major street over. Only reason why I ask about addressing the 2 streets is I'm worried the one will sort of make the fast drivers go over to the other. I didn't see St. Mary's Elementary on Colonel William Parkway on the list anymore.
Through you, Mayor Burton. Valley Ridge Drive, in case of Valley Ridge Drive, when we were reviewing the traffic calming options for this street, we reviewed number of options, but we could not install lateral shift or chicane or curb extensions because of the driveway spacing. And another factor which is really important is if we install the speed cushions on Valley Ridge Drive, the traffic has no way to bypass these speed cushions. They cannot infiltrate, the traffic cannot infiltrate the neighboring streets, adjacent streets. So that's the reason Valley Ridge is suitable for speed cushions, and as an exception, we are recommending that. Whereas Colonel William, there's a possibility of infiltration. We haven't reviewed that in detail. This is having ASC camera. The coming soon signs are already installed, but all other major collector and arterials, including Colonel William, they are different from Valley Ridge. Valley Ridge was a unique example, so that's the reason we are recommending this exception.
Yeah, so I just remember having the conversation last year on Colonel William, just by the school for the school safety zone. We had a number of concerned residents about slowing down traffic in front of the school.
Certainly, Councillor McNeese, through you, Mr. Chair. I think what we're looking at is we could take a look at St. Mary's Drive on Colonel William and get back to you. What we're trying to take a look at is that there are many things in our tool belt, as you saw in the report, to look at slowing down the traffic. And for St. Mary's, we're looking at the ASE. At this point, if we're looking at the traffic calming on the bumps, what we're noticing if it's the road, if it's a through, is people could cut through it, then they will start cutting through the other neighborhood just to avoid the bumps. But we'll take a look at it, and we'll get back to you in terms of St. Mary's.
Okay, yeah, and I believe we had talked about the lateral shift there. So anyways, we can take that offline. Sorry, second question. So just around crossing guards, I know we had a report back in June on it, and it's sort of highlighted in this report. So, we've got a situation in our ward at Bronte and Rebecca where, we just found a school bus route had been canceled. A lot of kids, crossing an intersection where we know will be impacted by the Burloak closure. And I believe there's certain traffic volumes, and this exceeds the traffic volumes for the crossing guards. Now, is that threshold for having a crossing guard, is that something that the province mandates, or is that something that we mandate?
Through you, Mayor Burton, our we have a crossing guard policy, and our policy does not recommend appointing any crossing guard with the vehicle volume more than 15,000. So that intersection Bronte Road has over 20,000 traffic volume.
Right. So just trying to understand the limit. What's the rationale there? Is it like, are we trying to protect the vehicle or the child or the crossing guard or?
Through you, Mayor Burton, we are trying to protect the crossing guard. It's
Okay, but I just worry that it's at the risk of the child that we're trying to protect the crossing guard.
Through you, Mayor Burton, typically in my experience, I have not seen kids crossing such a major arterial. So this is the first time I'm seeing that. Probably it's because of the bus cancellation. That's the reason I don't recall any crossing guard location on such a major arterial road.
Okay, well, maybe we'll take it offline. I appreciate what you and your team have done on short notice and, putting some more stripes there and signal timing and stuff like that. But maybe we can have an offline conversation just about this crossing guard policy, seeing we haven't come across this issue before, because there's two directions on the street too. And then, the north-south is much busier than the east-west. So, anyways, we'll take that offline, but thank you for your work on this and your quick response when issues come up.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you very much for the report and some of the diligence in Ward 3. One of my concerns with the question I had last year was we made a decision not to go to 40, but we have roads that the residents really would have loved to have gone to 40. I know that's not every street, but there were a few. And if we had gone to 40 on the warrant, they would have met the warrant for sure. And so the request had been, is there a way for those folks, that street where they've done all the hard work of, they walked the street, they got everybody participated, we did the survey. Is there any other alternative for those streets beyond what you've suggested, which is the 2-kilometer variance that you've got in the report?
Through you, Mayor Burton, we understand, like, the residents, they worked hard for the petition process, and they want traffic calming, and they think that there's a speeding at cut through traffic on Spruce and Watson Street, Watson Avenue. However, the results, the traffic data that we collected, that's not reflective of what residents are perceiving, because Spruce has 50.2 kilometer per hour, that's the operating speeds. Watson has 51.4 and Douglas has 51.3. And as far as volumes are concerned, those are low too. So that's the reason we introduced level 1 traffic calming treatments, which is up to 2 kilometer per hour. So based on that process, there are other streets which we assessed this year, for example, Bloomfield Drive, Falling Green Drive, and there's another Douglas Avenue, which is warranted, but these Spruce and Watson, they are not meeting even that lower threshold that we determined for level 1 traffic calming treatments. So we have other tools. We have mobile speed, mobile sign on a trailer-mounted mobile sign that we will use. As an education tool, we can provide the lawn signs to the residents. We can use that as an education tool for slowing down or educating the drivers.
So thank you for that. Is it possible to know what the cost of a flashing sign is to be installed? Because we do move those mobile signs around, but if the street was 40 kilometers, they would meet the warrant. They are now a cut-through street to avoid Cornwall and the backup that occurs when you turn left to go eastbound on Cornwall. And while, I can't ask you to go back every year to do these checks, Councillor Giddings and I experience it quite regularly, and we understand what they're going through. So if you could advise us as to what the cost of a flashing sign is to be installed, is that something that could be considered through a local improvement?
Through you, Mayor Burton, the cost of a radar speed display sign is $4,000 to $4,500, $4,000 to $4,500.
Okay, so is there, beyond the fact that it doesn't meet a warrant, if a street has a certain percentage that say, look, it's not about bumps, it's not changing the road network, it's purely investing in a flashing sign that basically says politely, slow down on our street, is that an option that can be pursued?
Through you, Mayor Burton. The radar speed display signs, we have permanent locations at schools, which we use as an education tool. We have 17 radar speed display signs that we rotate on major collector and arterial roads, which meet the traffic calming warrants because we cannot do any physical changes to those roads. So those are installed on major collector and arterials only, and trailer mounted sign that we use as an education tool on local and minor collector roads. We can deploy that on that street, and that will be our recommendation.
So the mobile one, not an installed one?
Correct.
Okay, I'll come back to you about that another time. So I'm appreciative that Douglas is going to have some mitigation, and I'm sure other councillors must go through this. So there are two core roads that can take you from the south to the north up to Cornwall. And then there's Allen, which would also do it, but Allen has calming on it now, and Reynolds will have ASE. So we're going to do something for Douglas, but we're not going to do anything for Watson. And we are going to have a shift over of concerns on Watson. Are there any solutions that you can offer?
To you, Mayor Burton, once AS is implemented, we can review that street if there's any increase in traffic volume, because the current traffic volume we have, the traffic data, if as a result of AS implementation on Reynolds Street, if the traffic volume increases, we can review that.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. My last two questions are just around the time from the survey to the design to the implementation. What's your team's targeted time frame?
To you, Mayor Burton. For example, last year, September, the streets which were qualified for traffic calming design and public consultation, we had the budget approved from like in December 2023. We did design and public consultation by end of June, and we are doing construction in summertime. So next year, we have started the designs in-house right now, just to have like construction more earlier or do the public consultation in February or March. That's our timeline. It goes with the budget cycle. Like now we are asking for the budget will get approved, we'll do public consultation, and we'll do construction in summer.
So residents regularly sort of ask the question, why does it take so long if we met like 55, 60% of us want it, but what you're saying is it depends on when that survey is done. So if they don't get in the queue by September, they're not getting designed for implementation the next year. Do I have that right?
Yes, through you, Mayor Burton. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, yes, Councillor, through Mayor Burton, when your survey comes in a time where we already have the budget full for this year, because we don't have the flexibility in keep on adding locations as they're all planned for the locations from last year, then yes, then you have to wait for next year's budget. If you come just in time for this year's budget, then you'll get it within the year, because by the summer, as Imran mentioned, we'll have it constructed. So then, and just to add to the complexity of the timing, you may recall we mentioned we only do traffic counts at a certain time of the year. So we don't do counts in the summer, we don't do count over Christmas, so we do a spring and a fall count. So then again, once you time your petition to come in at the right time, you hit that very next count really quickly, then you could look at, everything could be done within 1 year time frame. But if you miss a timeline, there could be a little longer because we'll have to wait for next year's budget.
So I just think it's really important that we're really clear about those expectations on the website, because people go to that effort. I mean, I had some superheroes. They knocked on every door multiple times trying to get people, and but when it takes more than 12 months to get something installed, they're like, we told you there was a traffic problem and we've now hit the warrant. See, we've waited too long. So if we could just articulate that on the website, it would be, I think, it would just help people know we are moving things along, but these are the expectations you should have.
Certainly, that's a great idea. We'll make sure we actually provide a couple of examples of timelines on the website so they could see where they fall between our, say, the regular municipal budgeting process.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton, I just want to say thank you very much to the staff for this detailed report. It's an excellent report, and I just hope that people take the time to realize what the staff are doing, because it really spells it out, and it is a good report, and I'm hopeful that we approve the budget for what you're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I wonder if you'd favor us with the indicated motion that the continued implementation of the traffic safety program be considered as part of the 2025 budget and prioritized along with other known budget pressures.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any objection to the motion? There being none, that carries. Thank you very much, Councillor Elgar. Congratulations. Now, if I have this right, the next item is the potential acquisition of land for a new library at Trafalgar and Threshing Mill. And we have Tara Wong, the CEO of the library, and a presentation and an opportunity to ask questions. I hope, and all of a sudden, I'm not sure. Mr. DeMasso.
Good evening, Mayor Burton, members of council. Tara will be with us in just a moment, but I just want to set some context for the presentation. Our draft master plans for parks, recreation and culture, and libraries acknowledge our challenge as a growing municipality by identifying the facilities located in areas with higher density will face unique challenges and opportunities. Most notably, land costs will be greater, resulting in smaller footprint and a likelihood that multi-story community buildings will need to be considered within mixed-use buildings. So in other words, to ensure that the land we do have access to is prioritized for parks, trails, sports fields, and open spaces, we will require new approaches to maximize the use of land within the town's denser urban areas. So this evening, we're bringing forward an opportunity to begin that journey with an exciting and favorable partnership that will provide a location for the new library branch and services that will support Oakville's growing uptown neighborhood. So to give you some more details on this opportunity and the council report that's on tonight's agenda, I'll turn things over to Tara Wong, CEO of the Oakville Public Library, who is joining us online from Halifax.
Hello, President.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, mayors, members of council. So next slide, please. So just to go through the report for you, Oakville Public Library staff, along with town staff, have been looking at a proposal for the past year with Grant Haven Developments as part of a opportunity to purchase or lease for community use in a development at Threshing Mill and Trafalgar Road. It's a very exciting opportunity, and we've been negotiating with them for the past year on the proposal that we're bringing before you, both in the public report as well as the confidential report. Next slide, please. So just to give you a highlight of where it is up north of Dundas, up Trafalgar, just at the Threshing Mill intersection. Next slide, please. Just where the star is located right now. So that is a rapidly growing area, the Trafalgar Urban Core South. It is projected to see significant growth in the next little while. Next slide, please. So the proposal would have the library on the ground floor of a 23-story residential condominium with access from Threshing Mill. The proposal also includes 18 surface parking spaces that would be for library customers to use, as well as the potential for us to purchase 5 underground spaces, which would be used for staff. Right now, the proposal Grant Haven development is still in site plan. So we are expecting square footage of approximately 17,000 square feet. And the proposal before you would be for the property and the shell space. So not necessarily the fit out of that space, but the property and the shell to that. Next slide, please. We're also proposing an ownership model. So there are obviously a number of different models that we could look at when taking on a partnership with a developer. So staff, along with Realty Services, reviewed the different options and are proposing an ownership model, which would allow the town to own the space as well as the 18 surface parking spots. We would, of course, have to do different cost-sharing agreements, but it would also give us significant control over the space in a way that we wouldn't have if we had to be part of a condominium association. Next slide, please. So as Commissioner Damaso mentioned, it is already in the Parks, Recreation and Library Master Plan. So the one that is currently in place speaks to a full-service library facility in this area with approximately 22,000 to 35,000 square feet. That actually speaks to some of the conversations that we had with the current master plan about moving the administration services at Central up north. Obviously, with the growth in that area since 2012, getting a space that's large just isn't as feasible as it was. So under the current master plan that's currently in draft and will be coming for council in the next month or so, we downsized it a little bit to 20,000 square feet. We've definitely had conversations back and forth with Brant Haven, and we do believe that the 17,000 square feet for that area will work for us. Next slide, please. So from our perspective, this is a great opportunity. It matches the timelines within a year in the current 10-year capital forecast. It allows us to get into the community that's rapidly growing and to be able to provide library services to the residents in that area. It also addresses the lack of available land in that area. There is some risk that if we do not move forward with this proposal, that other options are more challenging, especially with all the development happening up there. And as Commissioner Damaso also mentioned, it is an opportunity for us to test a new methodology for building libraries in high-density areas, especially with a very engaged partner. It is an exciting opportunity to rethink how we can do libraries in areas like this. Next slide, please. And just to kind of finalize the recap of the report, in the 10-year capital forecast, for the 2024 budget included $5 million for the purchase of land in this area, and the 10-year forecast does include an additional $15 million for the construction of a new branch in this area, which would align with the timelines that we're seeing with Brant Haven. So given all these pieces, it is the recommendation of both Oakville Public Library, Oakville Public Library Board, and town staff that we move forward with this proposal. So happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Wong. You've got a few. Councillor Knoll, Councillor Nanda, Councillor Adams, and I think there may be more. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for the report, Tara. That was great. I just wanted to clarify and make sure everybody understands that this has been vetted for a couple years now through the Oakville Public Library Board. Councillor Chisholm and I have been working on this, and previously Councillor Hazard-Thiel. The board is fully endorsed this and are excited about the opportunity that exists here. I'm just wondering if Tara could possibly put 17,000 square feet in context with other branches so that other members of council can get a sense of what that looks like compared to other branches across the system.
Sure. So Glen Abbey is about 15,000 square feet. And the new 16 Mile would be, I think it's just over 17,000 square feet. So it would be, this would actually be our second largest outside of Central, or the third largest with 16 Mile. I can't remember exactly what 16 Mile is, but they're very similar to that. But Glen Abbey is just over 15,000, so that kind of gives you a space.
Do you recall Iroquois Ridge's square footage?
Just under 14, if I remember correctly.
Okay, thank you, Worship. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nanda.
Thank you, Worship. Through you. So I had a question. Thank you so much, Tara. This is obviously very exciting for a lot of the community up north because, as you said, there's a lot of density and trying to meet their needs is not as simple as it used to be. I had a question just in terms of purchasing. It said that we had the first opportunity to purchase or lease space in exchange for additional building height. I was wondering if our staff did we look at community benefits through this, or how would this work?
So Gabe might be able to speak to it, but this was part of a community benefits program.
Yes, I was hoping that Gabe Charles was perhaps online so he could, there he is.
Thank you, Madam CIO, and through the mayor. This particular application had been handled through the OMB at the time process, where there was an exchange for some additional height, some additional density for the community space that Ms. Wong has referenced, and that in the fullness of time we expect would be a library use.
Okay, so that's included with how we have to purchase it as well. There's a community benefit somewhere in there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's not a community benefit in the sense of a CBC charge in terms of community benefit strategy or community benefit charge strategy. It was taken as bonusing through the previous section 37.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nanda. Councillor Adams.
Thanks very much. I'm just wondered about the size of the space that's being talked about. I see on page 144 that we talk about 22,000 square feet plus versus I think I saw 20,000 maybe on a slide, and the 17,000 that we're now talking about. And I appreciate the sizing being similar to some of the other branches we have, but this is an area of intense growth. And I wonder, what is it that we're not doing that we were thinking we were going to do in some of the other extra square footage? So I appreciate 35,000 square feet would be the admin space that's going to go in the central branch. But what are we doing in terms of programming space for youth, for seniors and the young professionals who are in the area, in terms of and the young professionals certainly use the space as workspace during the day, I think, so.
Through you, Mr. Mayor Burton. So yeah, we've actually been touring a number of libraries in the GTA to kind of get a better sense of how we would design a library at the base of a condo building. Because as you mentioned, like it is important for us to really think about flexible space. And in areas of high intensification, it is really space that people are looking for. They're looking for that community living room. They're looking for space to study, to go with their families. And so, you know, there's some really great examples. Brampton Springdales is a really, really good one of a building that's designed with a lot of flexible space so that it can change throughout the day. So for public libraries, normally in the morning, you see a lot of young families. They come in for our storytime programs. The afternoon, we tend to see more seniors come in. After school, we see the students come in. So it is really designing for a library that can change its character throughout the day in order to suit what population is in there. To really answer your question, there will absolutely be spaces for all of those individuals. It may be the same space, but it'll shift to meet their needs as identified through the flow of customers through the branch.
Thanks very much. Is there an opportunity to increase the square footage that we're talking about?
So we continue to have conversations. I mean, they're currently in site plan. And so there has been some shifting. I'm hoping there was some shifting down. I'm hoping that we might be able to shift it back up as part of that process. Brandhaven has been amazing and they're really willing to work with us on this. So that'll be continuing to have conversations with them and as it continues to go through the site planning process.
And will the building have the opportunity for future growth within it? So if we go at 17,000 square feet now, is there an opportunity in an adjacent portion of the building to, say, in 10 years, add an extra 2,000 or 3,000 for some kind of expansion or growth that might be considered then?
Offhand, I'm not entirely sure. There are other retail spaces in there, so whether or not if we wanted to grow, we could speak with what their leasing is in order to be able to take over and buy some of those other retail spaces in order to expand out into those. I'm not entirely sure what that would look like, but that is an opportunity that we could explore if we did require bigger space. In the master plan, there is also a branch significantly further out, timeline-wise, in the Trafalgar Urban Corridor North. So there is a branch up closer to Bermanthorpe in the 30 years going out too. So there will be some balance up in that neighborhood.
Okay, thanks very much.
That's the wrong way. Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Hazat-Dion.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. Tara, thanks very much for the report. A few just follow-ups. So the distance between branches, so there's no question of the level of density, and I loved how you phrased it as they need a community living room. So what is going to be what is the general distance between one branch and another? Is there a metric we're following? We used to follow a metric years ago.
I'm not entirely sure. I know there's, I don't know, I can't remember offhand to tell you the truth. It's definitely shifted through the years, particularly with the different growth opportunities.
Okay.
But I can verify that for you.
Yeah. Because as we have to invest in all sorts of facilities, understanding how we're balancing that fair geographic distribution of services, I think needs to be factored in. I'm appreciative that Councillor Adams asked about community space, but I just want to ask it in a slightly different way. The Clearview Library has limited space for those residents and continues to always be challenged to be able to have the benefit of all the wonderful things that Glen Abbey and Iroquois Ridge and the others have. So are you assuring us that Threshing Meadow, that it would have the level of services that we've been able to provide at Glen Abbey and Iroquois Ridge?
Yes.
Okay. And so you can imagine my next follow-up is, at some point in that plan, is there some way that we can make additional space available or find a creative solution as you have with Branthaven for Clearview? I'm just going to keep telling you to keep it on your radar because these are readers, these are people who want to have those activities, and they are landlocked. They're just in one little hub and they don't really feel that they have, as you said, the best model is a community center with a library, not a school and a library. So is it percolating an idea somewhere that will be able to meet that community's needs?
So through you, Mr. Mayor. The board had quite the discussion about Clearview and a number of other branches as part of the public consultation for the Parks, Library, and Recreation Master Plan. And that is something that we are continuing to look at.
Okay, thanks very much. And my last question is just around hours and services. This is going to be a library that is open during the day, in the night. It's not going to have limited hours of use as a result of being in a condo building?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it will align with our current service model.
Okay, thanks very much, and thanks for all your hard work on it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. I would like at this moment to move the recommendation that's contained in the staff report and suggest that if you want to learn a little bit more about what libraries on main floors of condos looks like, you just have to look at Aldershot branch of the Burlington Library, the Community Housing Corporation at the Halton, in order to build a building with their partners, partnered with the City of Burlington to build a wonderful branch on the main floor. So it gives you a really good example of what this looks like and how the synergies work. And to Councillor Hazel-Thiel, I just want to echo what Tara said. We have had conversations about additional branches and where they're going at the library board. Clearview continues to come up. Your spirit is alive and well at that board table, so thank you.
All right, thank you. It's been duly moved. Is there any objection? Madam Clerk, no objection was seen, and the motion carries. Now, Council, I need a mover to receive the confidential reports under number 11. Councillor Xie, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that carries too. Thank you. Now, so that's 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3. We are now at the point where we could rise and report to council if we had a motion. Councillor Elgar, any objection? There being none, Councillor Elgar's motion carries, and I rise and report the Committee of the Whole has met and made recommendations on consent items 8.1 through 4 and discussion items 10.1 through 3 and confidential discussion items 11.1 through 3. As noted by the clerk, a mover and seconder for this report is in order. Councillor Lischina, Councillor Giddings, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that carries. Council, I recommend your attention to the information items in 14 and your status of outstanding issues. And I pause to ask if there's any new business, congratulatory or any other nature. Councillor Knoll.
Sorry, I don't mean to be taking up my my time allowance for the entire year, but just a couple quick things. First of all, I want to thank the public and members of council, and particularly the staff, for a very successful Oak Park Fall Fair. We held it this 2 weeks ago, Saturday, the 7th of September, and we had over 4,000 attendees throughout the day, notwithstanding the weather. That scared us to death in the morning because we thought we were going to get rained on all day long. But we got a little bit of a sprinkle, but it held out. And with our efforts, we raised $60,000 to benefit the programs and services at the Oak Park Neighborhood Center. I want to say a big thank you to the sponsors, all of the sponsors. I'm not going to name them all, except I will mention cooperators Matthew Donahoe Brokerage, who is the title sponsor. Huge thank you to the Parks and Rec staff. You were fantastic in every aspect of leading up to the fair, servicing us at the fair, and helping us clean up afterwards. So, Paul, take it back to your team. You guys are superstars. Really appreciate it. And thanks to my colleague, Councillor Grant, as well as Natalia Lischina for joining us. And I heard that maybe Councillor Nanda snuck in at some point. I think I saw. Did you sneak in the Fall Fair? Oh, okay, family members. I know I saw photos anyway. But thank you to everybody that participated. One second thing is I want to thank members of council for your participation in the design consultations on the main branch of the public library. It's extremely important that we get this right. It's a lifetime kind of contribution to the community, and all the feedback has been fantastic. So please keep it going, and please share the consultation with your community that is now started. We really need the feedback from members of the public to understand what they expect in a public library. I'll mention that Tara is speaking to us from Halifax today because she's actually there. She's there seeing family, but she was also there today touring the library with our consultants, the Halifax Main Library, which is a phenomenal facility. So with that, I want to thank you for the time.
Thank you, Councillor, for your informative update. I'm not aware of any requests for reports, but this is your chance to surprise me. Seeing none, would someone like to move and second consideration and reading of the bylaws? Councillor Xie and Councillor Nanda are the first hands. All those in favor, let's see your hands, just to be for the novelty. And that carries. The bylaws are considered read and passed. I thank everybody for their diligence and their many fine contributions to the meeting. And with that, our meeting is ended.